This is going to be a lot of fun now. We're going to play around with the numbers and have a great time. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to give you an overview of this template, go through a couple of the tabs and explain what's here, and then we're going to pull in the T12, the OM from the Courtyards of Roses property that we've been going over. And we're going to start inputting the numbers and showing you how to start underwriting a deal. So to start off, we have up here at the top, these are kind of our key indicators. These are numbers that are on every page of the template. These are numbers that are going to help us understand how the deal is currently over here on this left side. And then the right side is going to show us how the deal meets our returns. So we can see that it's going to highlight different. It's going to be green if the numbers work out, or it's going to turn red if they don't meet our criteria. And we can dive into more of what our criteria is once we get through underwriting a deal and the numbers start to populate. But step one over here is the property information. So we're going to put the property name, how many units there are, what the asking price is, the hold time. Now the hold time is going to be anywhere from 3 to 7 years is typical, based on the size of the property and what is needed to be able to fulfill our plan of adding value to the property. The rental square footage, you won't touch these cells, they'll auto-populate. Then the blue ones, as we can already see, they are tabs, so that's where you can choose from the list. So this is the property type and the area type, B, C, A-class properties, and area type, then the year built. So that's step one, just some basic property information. Step two, we jump into the income and expenses. And this is from the seller side. So this is going to be everything from the T12. This is where we're going to find the T12 information. And also from the rent roll, this is where we can end up putting the gross potential rent, the loss to lease, and physical vacancy, and so forth. And that is all numbers that we have because of the financial documents, because of the T12. Step three is our income and expenses. This is where we start adding our assumptions, how we think the property is going to run based on our research of the market, talking to property management companies, talking to brokers, doing market research on comparable properties and how they're potentially running. This is where all that information, that knowledge is going to be used is on our side. So we're going to put physical vacancy based on the market, concessions, loss of bad debt. Then down here, we're going to put what we think the rules of thumb, kind of our expenses, how we think we can run the property after the first year. Now, if you hover over this left side, it will show you some rules of thumb, kind of what we typically start out at. If you're not too familiar with the market, these are numbers you can start out with. So payroll is $1,000 to $1,200 a unit. That's where you're going to actually put in $1,000 to $1,200. And it's going to calculate based on how many units there are. It's going to calculate how much total payroll would be throughout the year. But this is just per unit. And we're going to go through that for each one of these when we're underwriting a property. If you ever need help on kind of a rule of thumb, just hover over and it'll give you that kind of answer here. But the best answer to figure out what these prices would be is to contact a property management company. They'll be able to definitely hone in and give you the most accurate information instead of using these very generic rules of thumb. Step 4, we scroll over. Step 4 is mortgage information. So this is our debt. This is how we're going to finance the property. We have an assumable loan up here. This is only for properties that have to have the loan assumed. You'll know that in the OM or talking to the broker, he'll mention that because it's a really important factor. And so you put the loan amount right there. So what's the leftover balance? And then it will populate accordingly. If you don't have that, leave that blank, and then we'll move down and we'll do what the down payment will be. And these numbers will populate based off the purchase price you have done in step 1. and then what the interest rate is, and then the interest only period. And this is in months, so we'll do 12 months for a year, 24, 36 months. It's all based on what your loan quote would be from your lender. Then the term is 30 years usually, or the amortization term is always 30 years, and the term of the loan itself is typically 10 years. So we usually don't need to change these. These kind of stay 30 and 10. So don't worry about changing them. They won't really affect your underwriting either. Then step 5 are the closing and acquisitions costs. These are all rules of thumb. They're pretty standard. That's why they're still in the template when you download it. They are already populated there. You don't really need to move them. The one you could probably change the most is the acquisition fee or guarantor fee. The acquisition fee is what the general partners or managers, or you guys, the ones that are doing all the work with the deal, the operators, will get this acquisition fee, 3%, 5%, or so forth, when closing on the deal. And the guarantor fee is for your sponsor. Whoever is going to be guaranteeing on the loan or signing on the loan, they'll get a guarantor fee. Then the loan points, that's pretty typical, 1%. So here in closing costs, these are going to be any extra fees or legal fees that are associated with closing on the deal. And that will be all there, so you don't have to worry about that. As we scroll down, we're going to see first year insurance, what that's going to be, property tax reserves, utility deposit contingent reserve. These are all going to be auto-populated. Capital improvements, this part is going to be populated based on the next tab. We'll go over the value add tab. Capital reserves, here's a little rules of thumb for you based on the year it was built. So if it was the 1970s or older, it's going to be $350 per door. And so we'll just insert $350 if it's 1970s or older. Here's the cap rate at resale. This is probably one of the most important numbers when underwriting a deal, is to know what the exit cap rate is. Right here is going to show you kind of a suggested exit cap rate, but this is going to be based off what market cap rate is right now, and then how long you're going to hold the property. And so we'll go into that when we're underwriting a deal. I'll go through how to calculate what the exit cap rate would be. Then your manager's cash flow and equity partner's cash flow. So this is the 30-70 split is the split you'll have between you and your equity partners. So the people that are bringing the money to the deal, they're going to get a 70% of the deal. And then you as a manager, the operator of the deal, you'll get a 30%. And this can change. This can be 20-80, 40-60, but typically we see 20-80 or 30-70 are the most popular ones. So that's the input page. That's where a lot of the work needs to be done, and all the information you need to have is going to be input here on the input page. The next tab is the value add tab, and this one's super important when analyzing a property and see if it's going to work. So first off, we have the unit upgrades and below market rent. This part is very important, and so I hope you pay attention to this part because a lot of people get confused. First, I'm going to cover this second spot right here, rent premium for renovated units. So let's say we're going to a property and we need to renovate the units, and we can raise rents based off of renovating them, based off the market comps as well. So we go into a unit and we renovate it. We put $5,000 into the unit. We can raise the rents $100, let's say. This is where you're going to put that. We can raise rents $100 for every unit that we renovate. Now, for this to start populating, how much is that's going to be is we'll figure that out in the underwriting while we're underwriting the courtyards of roses. But that's just for example right there. Now, let's just say if we don't renovate into the units, or some of them are already renovated, but they're below market rent. They're $50 below market rent, so then we'll put $50 there. And then through here, these are going to be percentages of how much you're going to do each year. Now, the first year you might do, let's say 50% of the units. However, that's going to be spread out throughout the year, and you're not going to be collecting the new premium throughout the whole year. So we're going to want to keep this number low, around 10 to 15%. And then the next years, we can definitely up that a lot more to 50 to 60 based on the size of the property. And then year 3, we'll kind of finish it up. All right. So let's put in, what's that left? So 60, 15, 75. So we're going to do another 20 because we want to leave a little extra meat on the bone. We don't want to renovate all the units or raise rent to every single unit. We want to leave a little bit for when we sell the property. We want it to be appeasing to other investors as well. So we're going to keep it on the lower end. We'll even keep it lower here. Now down here, this is important for this to work. When we have the unit count in on the first page, that will help us populate how many units, the total unit count, and then how many units that need to be upgraded, and that will populate into this. So that we'll go over that when we go through the deal as well. Now the other income section, this goes over anything extra like increasing the pet fee, leasing out washer and dryers, other premiums or other charges that you're adding, like covered parking, reserve parking, and so forth. That will be in the other income section. Then the capital improvements, this one's really important to have it filled out for the numbers to work and for all these numbers up top to work properly. So unit upgrades, how many units are you upgrading and what it's going to cost per unit. Then the last part right here is the RUB. So this is the utility bill back or ratio utility billing system. This is going to be based on if the property is paying, the owner is paying for the utilities or the tenants are. If the owner is, this is an opportunity to charge your tenants back for their bills, for the water consumption and electricity and so forth. And that's what we'll use here. So that's all that I want to review with you guys for right now. We'll dive in deeper to these other tabs after we underwrite this deal, and I'll be able to explain more in detail on those points.